From Kansas State University, this is Agriculture Today. Eric Atkinson with you, and here's today's lineup. Over from the Kansas Crop Improvement Association, Eric Fabrizius will advise you wheat producers on having your saved-back seed from this year's harvest tested for germination before planting this fall. This in the wake of the head blight problems that turned up in numerous fields this year. Then from the Land Use Survey Center here at K-State, Leah Tsoodle will invite you crop irrigators, landlords and tenants alike, to take part in a new survey of irrigated farm lease arrangements. The information gathered by this survey will serve as a highly valuable resource in future lease negotiations. And later on, with another Stop, Look, and Listen, K-State's Gus Vanderhoeven, along with more here on Agriculture Today. You're tuned in to Agriculture Today from the campus of Kansas State University. Thanks for listening once more. We have put the wraps, of course, on the 2021 wheat harvest in Kansas, and just about the minute that happens, we turn our attention to fall wheat planting for the 2022 crop in this case. And thinking here about seed quality, we brought over from the Kansas Crop Improvement Association, based here at Kansas State University, the seed laboratory manager there, Eric Fabrizius, to discuss that quality question. Eric, we'll look at this from the 30,000-foot view, though, that is. This was a pretty good wheat crop in Kansas, and that would be reflected in seed quality, likely?
Yeah, we had, so we're early in the stages of testing, of course, but for what we've received and completed testing on for the new crop stuff, it's looking really pretty good. We had great concerns about head scab infection in the fields and due to the environmental conditions from flowering and seed fill. However, right now we're not seeing a huge impact. There is definitely some scab out there showing up, but compared to the 2019 crop that we harvested, why this one looks a lot better, and I don't think we've got quite as widespread of an infection, and the severity of the infection is definitely going to be a little bit less. So still have to pay attention to how to deal with those lots. You know, our certified seed growers are learning as we go all the time about the importance of good seed cleaning, the time effect, because the fusarium scab fungus that causes the problem actually does die out over the course of the summer to some degree. And of course, then fungicide seed treatments are always very effective in boosting that germination up and holding the fungus back.
Well, we're talking about that. A little background here. What level of impact does fusarium head blight or head scab have on germination, typically?
Well, it varies. So the infection varies within the population of seed from the point where it completely decimates that seed. We get what we call a tombstone kernel, which is shriveled and chalky, very light. And in those types of seed, the embryo is actually dead. It's not, there's no recovery for that. Meanwhile, then you've got other seed that is also infected. And it looks normal, but it's just a lighter infection in the seed coat. In that case, that's where the embryo is alive. It's got potential to germinate, and it's a matter of outpacing the fungus when it starts to germinate. And like I say, so that fungus that's lighter in the seed coat will actually die out to some degree. So the heat that we're going through right now is actually sort of beneficial to speed that process up. But cleaning it is the biggest thing to get those tombstones out and remove those from that population, and that will be the first step of increasing your germination. Obviously, again, it varies. We see germinations. I've seen them go down into the 20s and 30s as a result of high levels of infection and obviously prior to a cleaning process and that sort of thing. But others that you can have a seed lot that looks perfectly normal, and you may get surprised when you plant that the fungus will take off and actually reduce your germination to some degree.
Any seed that would go through the certified program will be screened for that head scab and that effect, of course.
Correct. So we're not doing seed health testing per se to determine if the fungus is present, but like I say, it becomes evident when you do the germination test. And then with certified seed production, you have a minimum requirement of 85% for your germination. And so any lots that we would get in that would fall below that 85 due to the fusarium infection would be rejected, and they would have to either try and clean it again, get more of the worst kernels out, or they would be required to have to apply a fungicide to improve that to be better than the 85%.
Now, as is the case every year, there will be producers who will save back seed from this past harvest for planting this fall. If they're not going the certified route, if they're doing this, you are at least sharing the message here, Eric, that they have that seed professionally tested to be absolutely certain?
Well, it's certainly encouraged. Home germination testing is an option for people. In a perfect year with no other factors involved, you pretty well get by with it, and you can see what your seed germination capability is. But when you have other instances like the fusarium head scab, having someone like our lab professionally test that seed, we train our analysts to evaluate the seedlings. We're looking, for good, healthy root and shoot systems. It's more than just a quick glance and saying, yeah, it's okay. We actually spend time, looking at each seedling and evaluating it to make sure it's got all the parts necessary to produce a plant in the field. So it can be done at home, but we certainly, the benefit of getting it done professionally is it's a $19 germ test. If you're not a member of the crop improvement, and that's pretty cheap to make sure you've got good seed going into the ground this fall.
Because especially with this pathogen, it's imperative to make sure that germ is up to standards, and more so than other pathogens, actually, it seems.
For sure, yeah. It's really the only issue that we deal with from seed health as far as affecting germination. Mm-hmm. People worry about black tip and there's, you see loose smut out there and common bunt and so on and so forth. Those things can kind of ride through on seed at times, but they're not actually going to impact the seed germination or anything like that.
You can send in a sample to the Kansas Crop Improvement Association and the laboratory that Eric oversees, and that's a 2-pound sample they ask to send in for the full analysis there. Let's talk volume for a minute, if we might. It was a good harvest, by and large, for most of Kansas. There are exceptions, of course. Any concerns at all about certified variety availability going into this fall?
Well, there's a lot of options out there. We used to certify 30 to 40 different varieties in a given season. We're pushing into the 65 up towards 70 varieties available now. Our acreage was up this year. We got around and looked at about nearly 100,000 acres of certified seed production. And like you said, I haven't heard a vast amount of yield data, but it sounded like most people were getting very, very good yields, so there should be a great deal of certified seed available out there. Again, your newer varieties might be a little bit more limited just due to the process of seed increase, but the ones that have been out there for a few years ought to be very easily accessible by a lot of our growers. I will say we will have our 2021 Kansas Wheat Book will be coming out. So you'll look for it in about the second to third week of August, probably in the High Plains Journal. Obviously, that gives some K-State yield data information from test plots and so on. But it also has our directory in there listed, by variety, by county, where you can get a hold of folks that have been growing and producing certified seed for us.
And every once in a while, as you say, there may be an isolated shortage localized here and there for one variety or the other, but it pays for the producer to have a dialogue with their certified seed provider locally to just line things out.
Definitely. And even, it's due to the number of varieties that are out there now, nobody can actually just produce and have available a great deal. So our folks and our organization, we've worked hard to make the movement of certified seed between producers a lot easier, and that way, if someone doesn't have a specific variety, if you let a grower know in your area that you're interested in something, they can certainly reach out to other folks within our network that may have that variety and have ample seed available that they could, actually move that to them. So should have a lot of options available.
And as Eric says, you can watch for that wheat book to come out soon. It'll have the full directory of the certified seed dealers throughout the state of Kansas, or you can contact the KCIA directly. And by the way, there will be, and we won't go name by name, but there will be new varieties out there to contemplate.
Oh, you bet. Yeah, there's, like I said, there's too many to keep track of all of them anymore as they come out. But between Westbred, Lima Grain, Syngenta, K-State, and our neighboring institutions that, with Oklahoma State and Colorado State, et cetera, that are putting out new varieties, there's a good number of them out there.
Yeah. And we will, by the way, be talking about the results of K-State's wheat variety performance tests here very soon with K-State's Jane Lingenfelser, as soon as all those final numbers are crunched and recorded. Looking forward to that conversation.
We do encourage you to, we're starting to ramp up pretty good here. If you are interested in getting testing done, if you go to our website, which is www.kscrop.org, there is a seed testing section on there where you can actually get a submittal form and be able to send that in with your sample. The sooner the better. We'll be going hard now until the wheat's actually going in the ground in a lot of the state. And, the germ test does take 12 days, so it's not just a super quick turnaround. It takes 12 days to do a germ test. So getting those in and sooner is better.
Beat the rush.
For sure.
Go to kscrop.org for full information on having your wheat seed tested for germination. And the best of luck to you and your crew as you enter your busy season. Eric, thank you for coming over.
And thank you.
Eric Fabrizius is the seed laboratory manager with the Kansas Crop Improvement Association. It is based here at Kansas State University. This is Agriculture Today. We're back now on this Agriculture Today. Now to inform you of a new effort to gather information from crop irrigators. In particular here, out of the Land Use Survey Center here at Kansas State University within the Department of Agricultural Economics, this is going to be a very important effort in gaining information on irrigation leasing arrangements that exist out there on the land. We're speaking now with the director of that Land Use Survey Center here at K-State, Leah Tsoodle. Leah, this is a survey conducted every few years, you tell us.
Yes, Eric, thank you so much for having me on to visit about this. I really appreciate it. And this survey is conducted once every 4 years. As we know, leasing arrangements are not public information. So a lot of times the only source that you have may be the coffee shop or whatever. But if you're looking to renegotiate your lease, which everyone hates to do, and I understand that, but sometimes you have to. Mm-hmm. If you're looking to renegotiate your lease, or you're looking at leasing in an area different from your normal, then this survey will provide information for you to have a ballpark, a good starting point for your lease negotiation. So it is critical that our irrigators around the state complete this survey so that we have good information for them, because it will be relevant to them and worth their time for future leases.
Otherwise, there's not really a good source to benchmark those negotiations, to put it that way.
There is not really anything that's other than anecdotal. Mm-hmm. So this is a great place to start with those negotiations.
This is, Leah, an online survey. That's how you're conducting it?
It is an online survey, but if folks would like to complete a paper survey, we are more than happy to mail that out to them. They can email me or they can give us a call, either one.
Very good.
And we will send them that paper survey happily.
specific information you're seeking in this survey. It breaks down a couple of ways, starting with the leasing arrangements themselves. Directly, what are you looking for there?
We look for the line items that a lease will generally include for your input costs, such like fertilizer, herbicide, insecticide, seed, how you split that up with your landlord, harvesting, hauling, drying, those sorts of expenses, how you and the landlord split that in a crop share lease.
And you're looking primarily at the crop share approach as opposed to cash leases, or you want information there as well?
We ask for both, and so if you have information on both of those, then that's fantastic. We'd love for you to enter it, but if you just have information on the crop share, that's great too. Now, either way, all of that information is extremely useful. And one thing I would say about the online survey is it will have some shortcuts that a paper survey won't. So it will, if something doesn't apply to you, it will jump you around and shorten up the survey. So that's one advantage of the online. I know a lot of people don't like to do that, but that's fine. We're happy to do the paper too.
Very good. We do need to stress this would be an appropriate time. Everything, obviously, within this approach is confidential, and it is kept very much so.
Absolutely. Your responses are confidential and anonymous, so there is no way to track whose information is whose. And so we aggregate it by area so that it is easy for users to glean information for a particular area that they're looking at.
Now, there is other information you're seeking here as well on actual irrigation equipment.
We do look at some irrigation equipment. We look at the landlord splits on those, who owns the equipment and who does the maintenance on it. And we look at the useful life of the equipment and how old it is, just to kind of get an idea across the state what the equipment status for folks is.
And then you'll gather all of this and you'll create a profile, if you will, something on a regional basis for producers to tap into. When are you hoping that those responses will be in? Is there a due date, so to speak, Leah?
Well, I know that this is an extremely challenging time for producers right now. Mm-hmm. So the posted deadline is August the 15th, but I am extending that to September the 1st because I recognize that our producers are very busy right now. And if they could just give us 15 minutes, so that information will be extremely useful to them in the future, and that 15 minutes will be well spent.
Very good. And it does, again, take just that little time to complete the online survey or the paper survey as well, 15 minutes if you can spare it here. The resource that is generated by this process is invaluable to crop irrigators, tenants, and landlords. How to participate? There's a link somewhere out there to this, Leah.
There is. The URL for the survey is tinyurl.com/irrigate2021.
That again, tinyurl.com/irrigate2021. There's probably a hyperlink at your website as well, if folks would rather go to that, Leah?
Yes.
So just go to the Land Use Survey Center at K-State, and you can access that. Or once more, you can contact Leah at the center, and she'll be more than happy to deliver a hard copy of the survey for completing that way. LTSOODLE at ksu.edu, 785-532-1517. Leah, again, you're trying to impress the importance of being part of this survey process to irrigators, tenants, and landlords alike out there.
Yes. If we don't have a statistically sound number of responses, then it makes the results not usable. Mm-hmm. And so we need to have as many responses as we possibly can to make the results much more useful across the state. So it may seem like, hey, it's that my information doesn't matter, but your information does. Every single person, your information matters.
And just as an extra parting thought here, likely the results will be available on agmanager.info at some point in the future, will they not?
They absolutely will. And the last survey that we did in 2017 is also located there. So if you want to look at that as well, agmanager.info under the land use survey research.
Excellent. Again, this is the 2021 Kansas Irrigated Farm Lease Arrangement Survey. Do be part of it if you are a crop irrigator, either on the tenant or the landlord side of that equation. Leah, thanks for letting us know about this. We always appreciate it.
Eric, thank you so much for letting me talk to you about it. I sure do appreciate it.
And the survey is being conducted by the Land Use Survey Center in the Department of Agricultural Economics here at Kansas State University. The center's director, Leah Tsoodle, with us. Once more, as Leah said, she'll be happy to send you that paper copy to fill out if you're so inclined. Her email address is ltsoodle@ksu.edu. You can also call her directly at 785-532-1517. This contact information also available at the Land Use Survey Center's webpage. Take this opportunity ahead of the break to slip in a quick plug for the 2021 Risk and Profit Conference at K-State. Once more, a presentation of the Agricultural Economics Department. The theme this year, Markets and Management. It's set for August the 19th and the 20th at the usual venue, the K-State Alumni Center. Live and in person here in 2021. There'll be 4 general sessions and 7 breakout sessions. Alternately, folks can register for online sessions. Those breakout sessions will be conducted over the noon hour during the following week of August the 23rd through the 27th. The keynote presenter this year, a highly regarded risk management consultant, Matt Roberts. And again, the whole agenda is full of valuable information for you producers and others. Register now. Go to agmanager.info and find out all the particulars on K-State's 2021 Risk and Profit Conference, August the 19th and 20th, here on the campus. They're asking you to register no later than August the 13th to get that break on the registration fee. It'll be, once more, a top-notch event. Be sure to take it in. We'll return in just a few moments with the top stories from today's agricultural news page for you, and the latest from K-State's Gus Vander Hoeven on Stop, Look, and Listen. Still ahead here on Agriculture Today. You're tuned in to Agriculture Today over the K-State Radio Network, now in our 97th year of broadcast service to agriculture. Eric Atkinson with you, and now on to today's agricultural news headlines, these courtesy in part of DTN. Well, as scouts headed out yesterday morning on day 1 of the 2021 Wheat Quality Council's Hard Spring Wheat and Durum Tour, they were likely anticipating what they'd see and how bad things would look, given the extreme drought conditions that wheat in that region has suffered this crop year. North Dakota Wheat Commission Marketing Director Jim Peterson told DTN last evening that, in general, people had expected worse conditions in the eastern part of North Dakota, but there were pockets of good and bad, he says. Overall, the tour made 100 stops in hard red spring wheat fields, a calculated average yield of 29.5 bushels per acre. 4 stops in Durum wheat fields, those averaged 26.5 bushels. On day 1 of the 2019 tour, for comparison, hard red spring yields were at 45.5 bushels and Durum at just over 40 bushels per acre. No tour held last year, of course, due to the coronavirus pandemic. Peterson went on to say, in general, most people said that kernel size was decent as they viewed it on the tour. Again, pockets of smaller kernels that would affect test weight, one of their biggest concerns. Peterson said of the Scouts field observations, with spring wheat as a number one grade, including 58 pounds, the test weight issue is one of the biggest concerns this year, especially for overseas customers. Peterson added that the East seemed like it maybe hasn't been as stressed as the West, and he was pleased to see the overall quality was holding up. Still, he said the yields were variable across the state so far on day one, and it was obvious that the poor fields had already been hayed off. In its weekly crop progress report this week, the USDA estimated the North Dakota spring wheat condition as of this past Sunday at 61% poor to very poor, only 11% good to excellent. The Durham wheat condition was estimated at 37% poor to very poor and 33% at good to excellent. That spring wheat tour is continuing today. The House Agriculture Committee yesterday advanced a bill to provide as much as $8.5 billion in supplemental disaster aid for farmers and ranchers who faced disaster in both 2020 and here in 2021. That bill passed unanimously by voice vote. It'll expand coverage of losses under the USDA's Wildfire Hurricane Indemnity Program Plus, also known as WIP Plus. It'll also cover losses from wildfires last year in California, as well as that derecho that hit Midwestern producers last summer. The aid will also cover producer losses this year from the polar vortex, as well as farmers whose crops are in D2 severe drought conditions for at least 8 consecutive weeks. Producers who receive assistance under WIP Plus as part of the bill will be required to purchase crop insurance coverage for the next 2 years with at least 60% coverage level, according to the bill's language. The CEO of the National Association of Wheat Growers, Chandler Gould, praised the committee for working in a bipartisan fashion to advance that bill. Gould cited the impact of drought across the Upper Plains and western states right now. He added that the bill also makes meaningful improvements to WIP Plus in the way the program is triggered for drought, for excessive heat, and for freeze damage. Upgrading our country's agricultural transportation network and infrastructure will assure a continued competitive advantage in the global export market, according to the USDA Secretary. Here's more from the USDA's Rod Bain.
The interdependence of our nation's transportation infrastructure and its importance to transport of ag goods domestic and overseas. It's why Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack says it is vital, necessary, and needed now to restore, rebuild, and improve these systems. While currently the U.S. has a competitive advantage price-wise due to transportation efficiencies and infrastructure,
that advantage, however, over time has shrunk. And the reason it's shrunk is because we haven't invested in improved infrastructure, and our competitors have. And if we ever lose that competitive edge, it will be very, very difficult for us to regain it.
So by upgrading infrastructure and facilities connected to all forms of ag transportation,
we maintain that economic price advantage, which gives our farmers an opportunity to continue to sell 20 or 30% of what they grow in that export market, which helps to stabilize prices and helps to improve the bottom line for farmers.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
35 years ago now, the beef checkoff program became a reality. Scarlett Hagan says in recognition of this anniversary, the industry is now looking back at some of the program's many accomplishments. Scarlett?
For more than 3 decades, the checkoff and its contractors have been the force behind many beef industry milestones that have influenced how beef is purchased and consumed. A few examples include checkoff-funded research that led to the introduction of low-fat ground beef in 1990, the groundbreaking muscle profiling research in 2001 that reinvented and added value to the chuck and round, which previously had been underutilized and undervalued, thus enhancing overall carcass value. The checkoff-funded beef in an optimal lean diet study in 2012 that provided evidence that the inclusion of lean beef as part of a heart-healthy diet is effective in lowering heart disease risk and the new science-based beef production courses introduced to middle and high school classrooms across the U.S. in 2019. Not to mention the Checkoff-funded Beef Quality Assurance Program, which has helped increase consumer confidence for more than 30 years, and the Master of Beef Advocacy Program that has aided in preparing more than 19,000 producers to share their stories. According to Cattlemen's Beef Board Chairman and rancher Hugh Sandberg, all those accomplishments and many others continue to contribute to beef's ongoing popularity in the competitive protein marketplace. The Beef Board, which is the organization responsible for overseeing collection and program funding, will celebrate the Beef Checkoff's anniversary during the upcoming Cattle Industry Convention in Nashville, August 10th through the 12th. In the meantime, a more complete timeline of some of the program's most noteworthy successes over the past 35 years is available on drivingdemandforbeef.com. I'm Scarlett Hagans.
And we hadn't had a chance yet to congratulate two K-State swine scientists who were recently recognized at the American Society of Animal Science at its annual meeting in Louisville. Bob Goodband receiving the 2021 Society Fellow Award for Extension, while Mike Tokash was recognized as the 2021 New Frontiers in Animal Nutrition Award. Bob's innovative extension and research programs had led to on-farm research programs across the United States, and Mike's leadership is central to the workings of a progressive swine nutrition research team that's made K-State the go-to place in applied swine nutrition research. So our congratulations to both Bob Goodband and Mike Tokash. This is Agriculture Today. This is Agriculture Today. Stop, look, and listen. This is our state, Kansas.
That pot has stood on the bookcase.
That's Gus Vander Hoeven of Kansas State University with comment on life in rural Kansas.
On top of one of my bookcases stands a small clay pot. It's handmade and was one of the first clay pots Talina, our daughter, made in her ceramics class. I love that simple pot. It's 5 inches wide and, depending how you turn it, 4 inches high with a lid. Ever since Talina gave me that pot, it has stood on the bookcase, and small pocket change has been deposited into it. It has been mainly quarters. The copper pennies go into another jar standing on the floor. The kids knew the small jar with quarters and at times borrowed from it. But slowly over time, the small jar would fill up until it would no longer properly close, sitting on the quarters like a mother hen on her eggs. These last few weeks the pot has been overflowing again, and whenever I lifted the lid to add more quarters and a few dimes, they started to glide down and fell on the floor, some rolling away. It happened again the other day. It was time to empty the pot in a bag and go to the bank to sort the money with the help of their small change sorting machine. Shaking the money into the hopper is always a great job. Then the machine does its job, sorts out the quarters and the rest, and the money is gone. You get a receipt of how much it is. Anneke has always done this pleasant chore as she goes to the bank. The fun part is the guessing when she gets back and says, "How much do you think was in the small pot of change?" I've learned over the years to no longer be surprised. I can tell you this week, when I weighed the nearly overflowing pot, it weighed 2 pounds. That was the clay pot and the small change together. That total weight represented $70.29. That's no longer pocket change. That will fill up the truck with gas and then some. When she asked, I guessed $70 because after all these years, I know what to expect. The pot is empty now. When I lift the lid, it sounds empty. I have not been in town, no change in my pockets. What I'm going to do this time is slip a piece of paper into the bottom with the date. I like to see how long it takes to fill the pot to overflowing. I told you that before I bagged the money, a few quarters slipped down. Actually, 2 quarters rolled away. I watched them roll and picked them up. One of the quarters was shiny new. The other was not as shiny. Flipping the coin, I read 2018 and noticed a scene of a small tree. One tree seemed to grow on a rock outcrop. On the rim of the quarter it said, Pictured Rocks, Michigan. I'd never heard of Pictured Rocks, but the computer told me it was a national lakeshore. Actual America's national lakeshore, it's first, and it offers pristine beaches and nearly 100 miles of trails and sandstone cliffs and northern woodlands with all its color changing throughout the season. I carefully held the quarter, and in my mind I saw the landscape, the lake, the geese flying over in spring and fall. All that from a quarter, smaller than an inch. It's a little bit like how I once described a post stamp depicting a whole valley landscape. Now remember, there was, including the clay pot, 2 pounds of quarters. And also remember, 2 quarters fell out on the ground and rolled away. I'll let you guess what the picture was on the quarter which rolled away and I picked up last. Of all the possibilities, you'll never guess. Yes, it was. It was Kansas, depicting the tall grass prairie, minted in 2020. On the minter was the leaning tall grass blue stem. You clearly can see the turkey foot as the seed head, and there was a head of Indian grass. To top it off, a butterfly, maybe a monarch. But the fact that there is the butterfly, you know it is a beautiful Kansas day. To know how many possibilities, I take out the advertisement of the Littleton Coin Company in the ARP. They advertised the complete National Park quarter set for only $29.95. Oh, I love that word, only. They will send the set free, no shipping charge. This complete set has 56 coins. The first coin was issued in 2010. I did some quick calculations and came up with the fact that you pay only $29.95 for $14 value in quarters. It's a bargain. Maybe if I was a collector, I would rather collect and turn every quarter I would get as pocket change over and see which park is shown on the quarter. Then look up the park. I don't have to look up the Tallgrass Prairie Park. It is us. I know it. Or should I say, I know of it. I don't think many people know the prairies. We know of them. They are very complicated and beautiful. I'm glad I turned over the quarter.
Gus Vander Hoeven of Kansas State University with his weekly commentary on life in rural Kansas. Gus is featured every Wednesday this same time. Peering ahead to tomorrow's broadcast, among other topics, we'll take a look at new information on non-irrigated cash lease rates here in Kansas, county-level data that's been put together by K-State's Greg Eibendahl. He'll fill us in on that, along with much more for you on tomorrow's edition. Please rejoin us then, won't you? In the meantime, Eric Atkinson here, bidding you a good day for Agriculture Today. This is the K-State Radio Network.